Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig.
Hey, Jeff. We have these two basketball teams who had the last 2 weeks these tremendous opportunities on their schedule to play themselves into an at-large position for the NCAA tournament. Yep. One of them has done that after a horrific start to the stretch, has ended up, in all likelihood, played themselves into it. The other one has completely played themselves out of it to the point where it is now you could probably say they have to win the conference tournament to get into there just isn't much left on the schedule to do and to impress anyone. And those games are gone, and they didn't get them. But anyways, this is Podcast versus Everyone. I'm Craig Powers. With me, as always, Jeff Nusser. This is episode 160.
That's me.
So, Jeff,
we like round numbers. 160.
We'll start with the men's team.
Yeah.
It's one, I guess it's been two of them since we recorded last.
Yep.
One, that UCLA game was just, the last 2 years at Poly now had just been UCLA hits every jump shot you can imagine.
Yeah. What the hell, man?
I know they have a lot of guys that can hit jump shots, so it's not entirely crazy. They have a whole bunch of guys that are good mid-range players, but the way they shoot,
not like that.
The way they shoot jump shots against WSU in Poly,
I know.
And then you combine that with WSU just continuing their complete inept shooting.
Yes.
In this game against UCLA, they continued the horrid stretch they had of outside shooting, the 3-point shooting, where they've been running about 25%. They hit 27 to 30, but man, inside the paint. Not inside the paint, but inside the arc. 35%.
Not even inside the paint. Like as soon as they stepped inside the 3-point line.
8 of 23.
It was a mess. Oh, and that didn't really change in the next game against USC either, which, we'll talk about that in a sec. But, UCLA was we talked last week about, hey, maybe we should zone them because they're not that good of a 3-point shooting team. And then they hit 7 of their first 10 or something, right?
Yep.
You just at that point you just go, what? I don't know. What are you gonna do? What you guys
score more points.
And they fought. Yeah, that's one thing.
You can't go 0.82. You're not going to win any games.
But both of these games revealed, this weakness in the roster construction. That you at this point in the season, and I know everybody wants, they want their pound of flesh, right? When it comes to the coach or to certain players or whatever. And something I said after this weekend was everything just needed for this team. First of all, I said, the 2022 Cougars, they are almost good. That's the thing that we know about them at this point. They're almost good. They're not good. They're almost good. They're really close to being good, but they're not good. at least in the way that we conceptualize good, because they're just clearly kind of a notch below that first tier of teams in the Pac-12, which this year is a notch below, tournament quality. Okay.
Yep.
But it's like, this weekend really revealed kind of why they're in that spot, which is, I mean, they do not have a player that they can reliably count on to get a shot inside the arc, particularly against teams that are very long and excellent defensively. And that's UCLA, and that's USC, and that's Arizona. And there's a reason why those three teams are all, at the top of the conference. And we even struggle with that to some degree against Oregon as well. And Oregon, oh, by the way, there's a reason why Oregon was projected, I want to say 29th, heading into the year by Ken Pom, right? Before they lost a whole bunch of games early in the year and then somehow lost to Cal and Arizona State. Arizona State's not terrible, but you know what I mean? Those four teams in particular have stifled us really in a way. Arizona State did it too, but those four teams really stifled us in a way that other teams have not. And it's because they just are long in places where we are not. And we have two guards that cannot get to the rim. And I know we thought that Michael Flowers was kind of...
Well, they can get to the rim. There's just nothing they can do once they get there.
Yeah, which I guess is why they don't really try most of the time.
Yeah, you see Ty get by his man. And then,
he'll get into the paint, but no shots going up.
Yeah, if he throws up a shot, it's bad news, or he'll just have to kind of dribble out.
Right. And there's really just no threat to score. I guess that's kind of what I'm driving at. There's just no threat to get to the rim, and Flowers, for being thought of as a one-to-one, and I don't want to down-talk the guy, because there are a lot of things he does really well. He takes care of the basketball. He has worked his ass off to be a point guard, which he has not been at any point in his career. So he's worked really hard to do that. He's worked really hard on his defense, so I am not trying to drag the kid down, but he is still 6 feet tall. And that means that there are certain limitations on what he can do. Isaac Bonton was 6'3". It might have been wild from time to time, but he could get to the rim. We don't have that guy. And when you play a team like UCLA or USC or Arizona or Oregon, man, it just looks so bad. And I was looking today at our Ken Pom history. Our 2-point percentage on offense under Kyle Smith has ranked in the 300s every year. That is, and I know that people have, expressed certain thoughts about Kyle Smith, and I obviously am a huge Kyle Smith believer. So I mean, I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater, but that shit's concerning. That's okay, we've had 3 different rosters with 3 different lead players, and none of these teams have been able to score inside the arc. That is,
and you've added more length.
Concerning.
You've added more length the last 2 years in the post with Abagidi and Gay and Jackson, and even you had a 6'8" wing in Yakumovsky. Yep. You had a big strong wing in Bamba, and
you got 6'5" Noah Williams.
Yep.
Who theoretically should be able to get there and finish. TJ Bamba, same kind of build. He's thicker, but same kind of height and length as Noah. It's a quandary to me. I don't know if you have ideas about why it is. I just know that I look at that and go, you can't make the tournament doing that. And we're in 12th place in conference play in 2-point percentage. And we're not just in 12th, oh, look, we're ranking last. We are a distant 12th.
3%
we are
behind.
Yeah, we're shooting just a hair over 40% on twos, right? I don't, and I'm sure it keeps Kyle Smith up at night and John Andershek up at night and Derek Phelps and Jim Shaw. I'm sure they all up at night trying to figure out how to get more 2-point looks. But 3 years of this is, it's tough to figure out why it keeps happening. And I'm leaning toward at this point, without knowing exactly why, that there's got to be something systemic going on. I don't know how you can have CJ Ellaby and Isaac Bonton, and then, as you mentioned, all these guys that you added that are now sophomores, and you can't score.
Well, yeah, you have Noah Williams, who's taken the most twos on the team, and he's shooting just under 38% on twos. And he's a guy that was he was at 42% last year. Yeah, 42%. That's a huge dip.
Which is still too low, but that's a huge dip.
Yeah, that's still too low. Yeah, I mean, it is. But it's more explainable given how many like mid-range shots he takes. But this year, he's not getting the ones at the rim anymore. He just hasn't been finishing at the rim. Like he definitely showed more flashes on offense this weekend than he has in a long.
He did.
And
that was a bright spot for sure.
He's on the rise on offense, but he's still not. It's still not there. Not from a guy that's taken his percentage of shots to have his low of a shooting percentage, particularly inside the arc. And then you have Roberts, who's taken 105 twos, which is third on the team in the amount of, just the mass amount of twos they've taken. And he's at 36%. Like, so you got FA and Gay who are over 50%. FA close to 60, Gay probably a little, I mean, a guy with his frame is not going to be a probably 60% guy unless he's getting tons of open looks, which he does get some open dunks, but he's not getting a ton of finishes in the post and all that. So 52, 53%. But then, like outside of that, you just got a bunch of guys that are strong. Like even, Andre's really nosedived on twos, and Bamba, who started out strong against better competition. Obviously, he didn't play this weekend, or on Sunday, but he's been strong. Having Jackson out is hurt. That's another guy that can finish inside. So Rodman has really been the most efficient when he actually gets in there. But it's just. But when you have these guys up top that are taking, Flowers is only 41 and 95. He takes twice as many threes as he takes twos. But you have these guys up top like Flowers and Roberts and Williams who are shooting the lion's share of your shots, and they can't finish inside. That's how you end up like this. And we saw against UCLA, we were, you kind of had this hope like, okay, maybe Flowers and Roberts could do a little better because, Tiger Campbell, for how quick as he is on offense and tough to stop, still on defense, he's still a 5'11 guy, 5'10 guy.
Right.
But he was scratched late, and they played Jalen Watson.
The worst possible thing to happen.
They played Jalen Watson instead, and he's 6'5", 210 pounds, and just absolutely obliterates them. And Michael Flowers goes for 3 points. Like,
yeah,
it's
and I don't know how you solve it. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't think there's a solution here. Like, I think, okay, Michael Flowers can graduate.
We had bigger guards last year.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say probably last year there was a lot of shot selection issues. Bonton was just taking a lot of shots.
Smith's teams haven't always been bad at twos. Like, I'm looking back through his history at KenPom. Like it's not like this is a consistent problem. It's just been like a thing at Wazoo that he hasn't been able to, for whatever reason, has not been able to crack. And I'm not sure what that is. And I'm sure, they'd point to a lot of things that you said, things like Deshaun Jackson being out. Like, I mean, him being in against USC was huge. Like, you looked at him and you went, God, he's a difference maker, right? And I do think he's kind of tailor-made for a matchup against USC because they are, kind of thick up front. You got, Isaiah Mobley and, that crew up front. But at the same time, it's just like, God, you think about what could have been. But, is Deshaun Jackson the difference between shooting 40% on twos and, something like 50% on twos? Like, he's not, right? Because our main issues are guards. Can't make twos, and there's just nothing you can do about that. I mean, some people are even like, maybe we should play Ryan Rapp, and I'm like, Ryan Rapp played this weekend, and he turned the ball over on his first 3 touches. Like, I mean, I don't know what you want. I love the kid, and he's try hard hustle guy, but it's like he's not the answer. Maybe Miles Rice was the answer, but they decided at some point they were going to redshirt him. I mean, or maybe he decided he wanted to redshirt. I don't really know, but because Miles Rice is ostensibly 6'4", it's a little bigger. But
you had Koulibaly, who's a big guard,
but same problem as Rapp.
Yeah, he turns it over. He also wasn't shooting well on twos. Like he looks a lot like Bamba in a way where they can get to the rim and they just aren't finishing. Like they seem like they have the strength and they have the athleticism to get to the rim, and they're just not finishing the shot. And then, it was the absolute against one of the best 2-point defenses in the country, potentially the best, USC, it just totally bottomed out. Let's see, they're number one. I think they were number one before we played them too. You go 5 of 32. Like, if they had a dream, they finally started hitting threes. Like, finally. After a month of clanking threes, they go 15 of 31 against USC. But they torpedo it by 5 of 10 from the free throw line. USC going 19 of 25 from the free throw line. The whistle helped them a bit on that. But still,
it does help when you take shots within a few feet of the rim.
But also, there was...
Although I guess USC did... I guess 9 of USC's free throw attempts did come on fouling three-point shooters, so...
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe we should get better at that.
Yeah, apparently. We get called for flopping when we try to do that. I don't...
God,
but yeah, it's funny that there was only 3 more fouls called on WSU in this game, and USC shot 15 more free throws. It's because I think it was like their first 7 fouls were shooting fouls, which is just a statistical anomaly. Like, I don't.
Yeah, but USC was. I mean, they were getting in the paint. They wanted to initiate contact, driving to the basket, and it paid off for them.
I mean, WSU. It's not like WSU wasn't in the paint. WSU was getting offensive rebounds. They were getting
that's true.
The ball down low. There was contact. It was just the refs were, they weren't in the shooting motion when it was happening. There was one where FA was jumping up at the rim with the ball underneath the rim and got fouled, and the ref called it on the ground. So
yes,
but still that they hit 15 of 31, but then they go 5 of 32 on twos, like 5 of 32 on 2-pointers. F.A. Abogidi is on this team. He went 0 for 3. Mohamed Gay took 1 shot. 0 for 1. Deshaun Jackson, for all he was doing, was still only 2 for 5. Noah Williams, who, when he had that hot start, when he was really good in the first half in hitting
made a few threes,
like everyone, you get kind of worried, and then he just he's taking a lot of shots in the paint. Once he kind of starts feeling himself in the game a little more, and 2 of 10 inside the paint. It's just inside the. I mean, a lot of those are in the paint for him, but 2 of 10 inside the arc, and he's kind of a guy when USC was playing zone that you were hoping could help bust us out of it. I did hear maybe he got a knock or something because he came out in a couple possessions late, but we'll see where that goes. But then you have Ty Roberts going 4 of 8 from deep, 1 of 4 on twos. Flowers going 4 of 9 from deep, 0 of 2 on twos. Yakimovsky, freshman year Yakimovsky, basically 3 of 7 on threes, 0 of 5 on twos, and he missed some bunnies. Then 1 of 4 on missed some crucial free throws. Absolutely crucial free throws he missed. But they played the defense against a good offense, a tough offense to defend, a big team, held them under a point per possession. They did what they needed to do on the defensive end. They just didn't make enough shots, and they did what they needed to do from the 3-point line. But
they did what they needed to do defensively, except for maybe 1 possession. Which like Ty Roberts does all he can,
But when he's giving up 4 or 5 inches to Boogie Ellis, like
Boogie
USC
Ellis
saw
6'3".
that matchup. They saw that matchup out of the, and they're like, okay, you're keeping the ball.
Right. I mean, you're going to get a shot off one way or another. You're not going to have an issue with getting a jumper. Maybe you can get to the rim, but whatever it is, you're going to get a shot off.
Well, and Ellis had one of his best games in a while because he either had Roberts or Flowers on him the whole game.
Yeah. And just an absolutely, I mean, look, again, our love for Kyle Smith, well established. Having Roberts on him on the last possession was like indefensible. Like that's just there is no defense for that. I know Kyle came out after the game was like, well, he's been our best on-ball defender. Okay, maybe for staying in front of people, but that's not what you need there, right? Like you just lock them up. You roll out a lineup of 5 big guys, and you start with Noah Williams, right? Because you don't have to worry about offense. It's just one stop and a rebound. That's all you're trying to get there is one stop and a rebound. You have no timeouts left. You're not calling timeout if they miss the shot. You're not trying to get up the floor. And I mean, all you're trying to do is get a stop and a rebound and get to overtime. So you do what? And then you should have run out something. Yeah.
Yeah. With who they're putting on the floor, you can put Noah on Boogie. You can put Yaki on Peterson. I know they didn't play Gay very much, but put in Gay.
Just freaking roll out the biggest lineup you got. Go Noah, Andre, Mo, F.A., and Deshaun.
I mean, you could do DJ too.
Just roll those. Fine.
You could put DJ out there, Isaiah White or whatever.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe not have F.A. on or something. I mean, I don't know. Like, or maybe not Deshaun. Maybe leave your 2 best shot block. I don't know. Whatever. But it's like there was a way to roll out a really tall lineup there, and the idea that, again, not to Robert's fault, he's just short. I mean, come on, you gotta be smarter than that. And we weren't smart, and we paid for it. We were just begging. I mean, look, the moment you ran him out there, you were begging for him to get a shot over the top of him. And if they had missed, it wouldn't have been because of anything Roberts did. It would have been because we just got lucky and they missed. And he, backed him down into about a 12-foot jumper, and no problem. That's pretty disheartening. Like there's other stuff that's just whatever, but that one I was just like, man, that in particular was so preventable, and we didn't prevent it with something that was in our control. We were coming out of a timeout. There was really no reason to do that, and and we did it. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, coaches have brain farts. They overthink things. We talk about coach brain. I mean, I don't know what happened there, but, it's just, I don't know, man. Just everything this year has needed to be just a little bit better.
They make a couple more of those 2-pointers and they win, and like, it doesn't matter. Or a couple more few more free throws. It's because there's so many things they did well. Like they shot the threes finally. They rebounded. They out-rebounded a very good rebounding team.
Yes, they did.
And so a very big team. And and they
were
won
great
the turnover
on both
battle.
ends. They were fantastic. USC was under 20% offensive rebounding. That's incredible. So they did so many things right, and that's why it's such a bummer. And I mean, this team is the 2009 Cougs, right? Like, it's basically the same team. Yeah. Like, really elite defense, really mediocre offense. The metrics overall say they're good, but they're losing a whole bunch of games, and they're not going to make the tournament, and they're going to be in the NIT, right? I mean, this just seems like the same kind of team.
They still have some work to do to get to the NIT at this point, but
yeah, I mean, I think so. But we can say, okay, so yeah, if you go out these last 5 games and don't win, 4 of them, then yeah, you probably don't deserve to be in the NIT either. But I don't know.
But yeah, they're up to.
They should win 4 of them at least, and maybe if not 5.
With the exception of the hot shooting from UCLA, overall in this stretch, the defense held up, and they're still the top defense in per play efficiency in the Pac-12 during Pac-12 conference play, and their defense adjusted efficiency has ticked up to 19 for Ken Pom. So the top 20 defense on Ken Pom right now. Their offense is torpedoed. I think they peaked at, they were, after that 5-game winning streak, I think they were in the 70s, top 75. Now they're at 110. That's, a lot of that was they just stopped shooting threes. That finally came back. Then they just totally, they unbalanced that by having one of the worst 2-point performances you're ever going to see. It's wild how just things can't come together for them. Maybe one game it did against Colorado, and even the wins have been a struggle for the most part, and it's just not. It never came together for them in this. They were right there on Monday and Sunday to get 2 wins. If they would have gotten those 2 wins, Oregon and USC, we're still talking about them as being a potential tournament team.
Oh yeah, oh for sure. I mean, I wrote about it heading into this stretch, and I was like, okay, if you get 2 of these, right? And I said that Ken Palm's probabilities added up to 99%, which meant, okay, we were probably going to get 1 of them. And if you can get 2 of them, then, that's 2 quad 1 wins. You're, firmly in competition for 4th place. Like they absolutely would have been in competition or mentioned with, potential bubble teams. And it kind of made me chuckle because the win probability was 99%. Well, I would argue we got 99% of the way to that 1 win.
Yeah.
And then the 1% got us at the end. So, I mean, we were talking about what a big stretch it was, and they got none of them. And we threw in a loss to Arizona State for good.
Not even the Arizona State game.
Like we threw that in just for funsies.
Arizona State, who's been fucking people up.
Yes, they're a better team than what they show. Which I kind of always thought they would be a better team than what we were kind of thinking they were, just because you look at some of the teams they played a tough non-conference schedule, and they had some close losses to some pretty good teams, and then they had some other head-scratching losses to some bad teams, but you could sort of see the potential, and as we know, when you play really good defense, you can hang in there for a while, and they've done it. They beat UCLA, they beat us on the road, they damn near beat USC. Right? No, Oregon. Who am I thinking of? They
beat Oregon by 24.
Yeah, they beat Oregon by 24. That one was crazy. And then they almost beat somebody else.
They lost to UCLA by quite a bit, but they had just beaten them.
Oh, maybe that's what I was. Yeah, maybe that's what I was watching. That they had
beat UCLA.
It was the rematch against UCLA. Okay, yeah. No, the rematch against UCLA. That was a tight game until like the last couple of minutes. That was, I know it's a 14-point loss, but they were kind of right there, and UCLA was sweating for a while, and that was at Pauley. So yeah, Arizona State's proven to be a tough team to beat. That's a team I want no part of again in the conference tournament. I'd rather they go play somebody else. That'd be great. I'd like to not play them again, and
also because the games are still so aesthetically displeasing.
Oh my God, like the worst games you could ever want to watch. So all of Arizona State's games look like that, like they all do. So they're just painful. They play that way on purpose. But
yeah, it's ultimately it's frustrating. Anyway. The Cougs, they've improved in controllable, what you feel like is more controllable areas this year where Smith wanted to improve. So they improved their turnover percentage drastically. And they've improved their forced turnovers drastically over last year. So they've flipped that turnover margin for themselves. Let's say they've regressed in defensive rebounding. But you're talking 1 or 2 a game. They're also, because their 2-point defense is so good, because their defense is so good, they don't get burned on the offensive rebound. Giving up an offensive rebound isn't a death blow. But yeah, the shooting has it. It's been so bad. They seem to have more 3-point shooters than they did last year, but they're shooting worse on the whole. And they're just as bad as they were last year shooting inside the paint, or inside the arc. I keep saying that. Well, inside the paint too, but inside the arc.
Yeah.
Despite adding another 6'11" guy, and even despite, honestly, like improved 2-point percentages from Yakumovsky and Rodman, they're still just they're the same crappy shooting team that they were last year. So they've improved in many things, but they have not improved in shooting, and that's why they haven't taken that step. Because shooting is the most important thing. Like like your shot volume does not matter if you can't hit the shots. Like it just doesn't matter. Like you can get all the offensive rebounds you want. If you can't score off the offensive rebound, it doesn't matter anymore. You know, it's frustrating. Like I think I've went on this rant already, but like I love shot volume, but it's so frustrating just to watch us miss the shots over and over and over again. Like like just why can't these guys like shoot? Obviously Noah has tanked, obviously shooting. And Flowers is kind of exactly what you'd expect. Yep. Like he shoots less than I thought he would, but his numbers are pretty much right on with, you know, his 2 points are just a little bit. He doesn't shoot as many 2-pointers as he did at South Alabama, which is not surprising. Like you would have not expected him.
The defense is just it's a different deal.
I mean, just the size of the players he's going against. And
when he was at Western Michigan, he actually shot more 2s than 3s.
Yeah. I'd say even like Roberts is probably his 3-point shooting has been disappointing. I mean, 33%. That can't be what they wanted.
No, I mean let's be real. He has to shoot like 40%.
Yeah, and so I know we've said this. To be a player at that
size,
but it's just that there's just all these players that just aren't giving you what you hoped. Even Yaki is 6'8". You would hope he could make more than. I mean, he's made the ticket. He's made a huge leap in the 2-point shooting, but still, come on, 42%. We need more than that. Right. You're a big, strong dude. Even Efe, when he plays the bigger guys, is struggling. And same with Mo. And Deshaun isn't quite, didn't quite take the leap. Obviously, he hasn't got to play as much. But even when he's in there, I think he didn't quite take the leap that we were hoping.
Yeah.
And really the only guy that's I mean, he's basically the same player as he was last year. He's just made more 2-point shots, and he's missed more 3-point shots, but he's made up for it by being so good inside the arc is DJ. Yeah. But all the other guys, just like Mbamba started out their season really well, very efficient scorer. That's tapered off, and obviously he's struggled with injuries at multiple times, and so they're just not getting. I guess what you're hoping for, but like some of the guys you kind of expect, but we just have enough guys tanking that you stayed the same shitty shooting team that you were for 2 years in a row. And maybe it flips, when in Tony Bennett's first year, the 4th year with the Bennetts, like suddenly all these guys who couldn't make a damn shot the year before started hitting them, like Weaver and Lowe and Harmline, and Harmline was hurt the year before, but like these guys started hitting shots that they weren't hitting the year before. I guess you're kind of hoping that we have another year next year where that just clicks and you just have guys that start shooting better, because otherwise we're in for just more frustration. Because like it's like, why can't we shoot better? Like it just doesn't. It's so frustrating, and it's not just that they're hoisting threes. Like they should be hoisting threes because of how bad they are inside the arc. Like you want them to get in the paint and take closer shots, but they miss the damn shots.
I'm I know that, so many of our fans have been like, all they do is run around and chuck up threes. And I'm like, okay, but what would you rather they do? Like, okay, I mean, I get it. It's, shooting threes all day is not everybody's, cup of tea.
It's not fun to watch unless they're making.
I'll readily admit I like it more than most. Like, I don't mind, shooting threes. And I mean,
it's not fun to watch if they're clanking them.
Sure, if they're clanking all of them, but I'm also
you like it when they shoot.
Would I rather watch somebody? Yes.
Well, yeah, which was
yes. Would I rather they shoot threes, or would I rather they get their shit knocked in the fifth row?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could just understand why people, when we shoot 6 threes in a row and they all miss, and it's just you're just naturally going to get frustrated.
At least the three's got a chance. At least the three's got a chance. I know, but it
doesn't it's just it's. There's possessions we get off, we miss, offensive rebound, kick it back out, guy misses again. It's just, I can see where people get frustrated, but at the same time, yeah, I'd rather have the guy shoot the open shot from 22 feet than the contested blocked shot from 5 feet.
Get swatted into the 15th row,
And yeah, if we could get more shots, for FA and Mo and Deshaun inside, one, we don't have creators. That's frustrating. 2, those guys aren't efficient in the post. They're just not especially.
They don't have post moves. FA doesn't have any post moves. Mo is still a really young player who hasn't
he's got
any of that.
Mo's
he's got a so-so jumper that kind of comes and goes.
And they figured that out.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just, I'm throwing up shit right now. I have no idea. It's frustrating. It's hard to watch. It's difficult. And yet, they'll probably look a million times better over the next, 2.5 weeks as they play Washington twice, Oregon State twice, and then Oregon. So, everything will probably look a lot better against those guys.
I'm not ready to automatically say that against Washington, because Washington plays an ugly ass, gross ass defense, and
yes, that is true.
And it's gonna be a lot of that passing around the top of the key that drives people crazy.
It's not a
it's not a terrible zone. They're top 100.
But they're in conference play. They're giving up 1.05 a game. And
but we're scoring
schedule. We're
scoring 0.97. So
okay.
And what do we have to beat a zone other than shooting 25?
Well, they give up offensive rebounds on 35% of their possessions.
And then what do we do with that offensive
not named
rebound?
Washington State. Well, I know, but Greg, I'm trying here. I'm really trying.
They
do give up 53% on twos. They do give up 53% on twos. So maybe there's hope for us in this.
Maybe there's hope. Yeah, and yeah,
they don't block a lot of shots.
I think we're going to turn the ball over more against them.
Well, yeah, that's pretty likely.
They don't. We're probably not going to shoot very many free throws.
We never do.
Well, we used to at the start of the season.
Not anymore.
Well, honestly, at the start of the season, the refs are calling shit tighter. And they have stopped calling, which is fine, honestly.
Of course.
I don't care.
They always do. They always do.
I just wish they would do it all year. UW is not that good. They've also beaten a lot of teams that you wouldn't think they would beat. And they beat us last year when they shouldn't have beat us. And so, it's just, and yeah, you look at our offense versus their defense. This should be, a time when we could do better on offense. And our defense versus their offense, I'm a bit worried about Terrell Brown just eating our tiny guards up alive.
Yep. I think that's absolutely fair.
And that's really the only guy you have to stop.
Yep.
But
yeah, they don't really have a credible threat otherwise.
and we, you know, our bigs can neutralize Nate Roberts inside. He's listed at 6'11". There's no way that dude's 6'11".
No.
Was he listed at 6'11" last year?
I don't know. Let me look.
Is he one of those magic grow guys?
He was listed. He was 6'10" as a freshman, and then he grew to 6'11". He ain't 6. He's like 6'9".
Yeah, when he stands next to Mo, he's not going to look 6'11".
No.
But yeah, and obviously they play occasionally Riley Sword, not very often.
Not very often.
I bet he'll see some time against us, but like, just for size.
Well, what's crazy about Terrell Brown is like he is the rare high volume scoring guard these days that does all of his damage at the rim. Like, and mid range jumpers too. I mean, he'll do it all from inside the arc. Incredibly efficient player.
Well, the
107 offensive rating.
Yeah.
32% possessions. While basically just gets to the line and shoots twos. Like, that's all he does. I mean, he's only shot 45 threes all year.
He's almost 35% in conference usage.
Yeah.
And
really unique player.
It's not so much the shots at the rim that worry me. It's those mid-range shots.
Yes.
And we saw him hit like 5 in a row against Arizona earlier that kept, got him in that big lead. Yeah. And, if our guys... He's going
to be able to get that shot anytime he wants. Like, that's not going to be
I'm worried about him. Worried about him kind of bending the rotation. So, because if he's able to shoot over Roberts and Flowers, he's going to... it's going to necessitate help. And then that's when Nate Roberts gets dunks and, Emmett Matthews hits an open three or whatever. Because they really don't have
all their other guys are like 6'5" and above. Like, we can't. It's not like we can go, just put Noah on him. That'll be fine. Well, yeah, because if you've got Noah and Michael Flowers and Tyrell Roberts all on the floor at the same time. Okay, who are those two guys? You're going to put Tyrell Roberts on Emmett Matthews at 6'7"? Like, you're going to put Michael Flowers or Tyrell Roberts on Jamal Bay? Like who are you going to put those guys on? Like, it is a bit of a matchup issue for us, for sure.
I could see them putting Noah on Brown. And then potentially putting, if Dejon Davis is in the game, they might be able to hide Flowers on him because he's just a very perimeter-oriented player. But still, it's, Dejon Davis is going to be able to rise up without a hand in his face.
Yep. I do wonder, we keep saying this, but maybe they drag out the zone and go zone heavy. I don't know.
It might work against this team because they're not a great 3-point shooting team. They don't have.
If you're just trying to keep him out of the paint, that might be the way to go.
And UW doesn't even shoot that many threes as a team. Like they're not looking to do that. So it's just Brown is because he's so far and away their best offensive player and so far and away their most important offensive player. It's like if Bonton the last 2 years was hitting everything, or I guess it's more like if he wasn't turning the ball over so much, or turning the ball over less. Not that because Bonton didn't really turn the ball over a ton, but some days he did just because he had the ball so much. If he was making shots more often, that's because he uses the possessions more than Bonton did last year. Like, he takes shots more often than Bonton did last year. Except he hits a few more of them, particularly inside the arc, and gets to the free throw line and hits his free throws more. He's just he's a dangerous player, and he kind of came out of nowhere a little bit.
He was pretty good at Seattle, and then he transferred to Arizona, and he was a role player for them, and coaching change, and he leaves. I don't know if who knows if Tommy Lloyd was like, hey, we don't need you anymore. I don't know, and maybe he just wanted to come home. He's a Seattle kid. But it's hard not to look at him and go, fuck, man, if we could have just gotten him, it's like, he would have been the answer to all of our prayers. Just that one guy would have completely changed the dynamic of this team. Because he's assisting on like 30% of Washington's shots too. Like he's not a black hole. Like he's a really, really good player.
Yeah,
he'll play in the NBA.
Yep.
He's a good ball player. He's the one guy we gotta. It seems like when we lose to Washington, we do just get torched by somebody, and he is very, very good.
Yep. So, whenever we play Washington, anything, you always look for reasons to worry, and so those are those. Obviously, like when you're looking at the defense and offenses in the whole, like WSU, should come out on top, but UW, in large part because of Brown, has won a lot of games that people, that they didn't look like they should win, but they also bottom out.
Yes. When it's bad, it's bad.
When it's bad, it's bad, and it's usually if Brown is bad. Against UCLA, he was not good, and
13 points.
They got trounced.
26-point loss.
And against Arizona, once he stopped controlling the game, once he stopped hitting every single shot, he had a good game overall. But once he was, done taking, every single shot and hitting every single shot, 6 of 6 in a row. I think he was 6 of 6, 7 of 7 to start the game, and then he finishes 9 of 19. Yep. So yeah.
Let me hit you with this one. 4 times this year he scored 28 or more points, and they've lost.
Wow.
So
when he scores those 28 points and over and they lose, is there something that's similar? I see Arizona the first time he was still good, like both times against Arizona he was still pretty good, pretty efficient, 110 and over.
Yeah, on both of those,
the other two.
He had 30 against Stanford and they lost.
Wyoming, he was
30 against Wyoming and they lost.
He was 9 of 25. He was 9 of 10 from 2. So he did, and he had some assists. So
he took 29 shots. He did take 29 shots in that
against Stanford,
against Wyoming.
And Wyoming, 29 shots, 10 of 29, 9 of 25 from 2. So 10 of 29. So if you're holding him to 30. If he's scoring 30 on you, he's taking 30 shots and 10 free throws to get there, you're probably okay.
This has got me kind of rethinking. Maybe you're better off just letting him get his and make sure nobody else gets you, because the rest of the players are just not good offensive players. Make sure he doesn't set up anybody for any easy looks, make him work hard to get his buckets, and then hope he wears out. I don't know. That one's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Going to be interesting.
Well, because Arizona State...
I'm glad this one's at home. I'm glad this first one's at home.
Limited his usage more than anybody, and Arizona State got their butts kicked.
Yep.
By UW. So maybe we're on something. Let the good player have his good day. Don't let Nate Roberts...
Just don't let anybody else beat
Matthews beat you. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe that's the way to go. I don't know. I'm not the coach. I don't get paid $1 million to coach. So.
And then before we record again, they'll play Oregon State as well, who is potentially the worst Pac-12 team in history.
Which is kind of crazy. There was let's see. In terms of Ken Palm ranking, they're actually not close. There was a Utah team that was
there's some Cal team. There was a Utah team, But in terms of results,
but in terms of record, they might be close in terms of record.
They've went 0-18 in conference play in the Ken Palm era too.
Yes.
But when you're talking 3 total wins in a season so far,
and that Utah team that I was just deriding actually beat us. So
I know. Yeah.
I remember that one.
But so they just obviously Elite 8 team last year who wasn't that good and then won, like, how many games in a row? It was like 7 games in a row to get the Elite Eight. Totally have bottomed out on defense this year. Really bad defending in the paint, really bad defending three-pointers. They give up a ton of three-point shots, so they're just giving up tons of open threes. But also, they're pretty easy scoring inside. They cannot rebound the misses. Like,
it's one of the worst defenses you'll ever see.
This is a team that if WSU struggles to score against, sound the alarms like more than ever.
Like where we were talking about our 2-point offensive percentage not being just 12th, but 12th by a mile. That's also Oregon State's defense, their per possession defense in conference. They're giving up 1.18 points per possession, which is just like so insanely bad. Utah is second worst at 1.07. So, like, it's hard to explain. I mean, you just think of it like over the course of a normal, like, 70 possession game or something. That's a 7-point difference between Utah and Oregon State, right? Am I doing the math right on that? So 0.1 points per possession, 70 possessions. That's 7 points, right? I'm doing the math right on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 7-point difference between 12th place, theoretical 7-point per game difference between 12th place and 11th place. Oregon State is very, 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 very bad on defense. One of the worst defenses you'll ever see, probably.
And Warith Alatishe didn't play in their last game. I don't know if how bad he's hurt. But he's obviously I would think one of their best defensive players. And he didn't even play. I don't know what's up with him. He's having he also only played 6 minutes earlier in the season because of a knee issue, so I don't know what's going on with him. You really have to be in deep with the beat reporters to know college basketball injuries.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a season-ending surgery situation.
Yes. And unless they are a really good team or something.
They do have some size. Maurice Kalou doesn't really use his size. He plays outside mostly. And then Roman Silva, he's a load to guard. So their offense isn't like awful. It's actually been better than ours in conference play. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They make twos at a decent rate, which is frustrating. This terrible team can shoot twos and we can't. It's like, what the fuck? Like, come on. Yeah, so it's going to be, they should paste them, but I don't know. Like, it's such...
I know, they've got us second guessing everything at this point, right?
I know, it's just... It sucks, but yeah, I mean, these next 3 before, and then they play Oregon State and Oregon to finish it out. I mean, these are all games they should win. Will they?
They should.
You
can make a strong argument they should go 5-0 to finish the year.
You could.
I won't. But you could.
I mean, what KenPom has predicted on if you add up the probabilities, it's 4-1.
4-1. Yep.
Which, if honestly, if you're into meaningful finishes, finishing 11-9 in conference play would be a pretty big deal for this program that has not had a winning conference record.
Oh yeah,
in almost 15 years, in 14 years. So it'd be huge. And you have it's gonna be tough. You have a lot of games and not a lot of time, but it's and you have the teams that you can beat. But we didn't think they'd lose to Arizona State, and really the only, like, when you look at the schedule now, like, the biggest head scratching losses are Eastern and Arizona State. And then a lot of the other ones are kind of explainable.
Teams that are better than people probably realize.
And, honestly, they've not been at full strength very often. Maybe if Bamba can get back, they're hoping this weekend, maybe on Wednesday, but probably not. They will have their top 8 for the first time all year, or at least in a long time. Maybe the first time since we were playing the Alcorn State and Seattle's of the world. I don't know. Maybe that will help. And maybe they'll hit just a few more 2s to end the season to make us happy. But yeah, we should probably take a break and then talk about the happier results in basketball, the team that did exactly what they're supposed to do. But first, we will take a quick break.
And we're back.
Well, before we talk about women's hoops, I say I want to know, what are you drinking?
Well, Craig, I went to Costco, as you might guess.
No.
I found myself at Costco, and I found the El Fremonto West Coast IPA, a collaboration between Fremont and El Segundo. Now, I am not familiar with El Segundo. I'm sure you are, because you're familiar with everything beer related. But it's delicious. West Coast IPA, delicious. Got that nice, piney, resiny flavor to it. It's delicious, and I'm glad I bought it. That's your Costco beer review of the week.
Yeah.
Back to you.
El Segundo is they've been around a while. I don't know exactly how long. Definitely one of the OG breweries in the Los Angeles area, which didn't.
I was going to say, this strikes me as kind of an OG IPA.
Yeah, so they made
what we got going.
They were kind of one of the back of the day, one of the breweries cranking out those big hoppy, IPAs, the biggest hoppiest IPAs you could find. Like when that was the thing, like in 2010.
Yeah,
they were definitely one of those breweries doing that stuff. I always just, what I've mostly had for them have been West Coast IPAs, very good ones typically. They also do some collaborations with Steve Austin, if you're a wrestling fan. So they have like Broken Skull beer. There's like an IPA. I think they've actually made more than one Steve Austin beer, but they know they have Broken Skull IPA. It's one of their popular beers because people love Steve Austin. And as I've learned as an adult, a lot of fucking people like wrestling. So
yes, that is
especially
true.
on Twitter. I did not realize this. I guess I just didn't grow up watching it, so I never got into it, and so I didn't get into it.
I think there was a long time where it was kind of like a I don't want to say like dirty little secret, like that's not the way to put it, but it's like everybody's little like own personal like indulgence, right? Like they're at home, they watch wrestling, and then it's like Twitter comes around, everybody realizes like how many other people are also doing that. Right? It's like all of a sudden, hey, you're into wrestling? I'm into wrestling. Like, yeah. So
exactly. That's, is it good? You said it's good. That's good. I mean,
yeah,
I'm
it's
all
delicious.
About West Coast IPA.
Absolutely.
Days, back into them.
Absolutely delicious. I've got one can left. I'll bring it over on Thursday when I come pick you up for the Sounders.
Sounds good. Because I definitely can't find that beer that you can buy at Costco made by Fremont.
No, you're gonna have to work hard to find it. So I'll bring one to you.
It'll be real tough. I definitely haven't seen it at beer stores and not bought it.
Definitely not. But see, if I give you one, then you don't have to buy it, right?
Exactly. All right.
What are you drinking?
Yeah, I just came back from the South. I was in North Carolina for a wedding without my children for 5 days. It was glorious.
Woo! Yes, I'm sure it was.
I drank a lot of beer, did a lot of day drinking. The beer I'm drinking I did not get in the South or bring back, but it is from the South. It's from Nashville, where I of course lived for 2 years, and this brewery did not exist when I lived there. Southern Grist Brewing. From Southern Grist, I am having kind of one of their flagships is double dry hopped mixed greens. What they say is you're holding the latest in our rotating New England style India Pale Ale series, each batch brewed with a unique hop combination. See bottom for series number. Now, the funny thing is, when I lived in Nashville, I don't know if these guys worked at Yazoo or maybe were just influenced by this, but Yazoo had a beer called, I think they still do, called Hop Project, an IPA that they would change the hops combination every time, and they would have a number and you could look it up. The number's all smudged, so I can't see it and tell you what the hop combination is. But yeah, I wonder if Yazoo, which was my go-to brewery, is really one of the only craft breweries when I lived there. Now there's a lot more in Nashville, and Southern Grist being one of the top ones. But yeah, it's just a hazy IPA. It tastes good. It tastes like every goddamn hazy IPA. Like, honestly. Like what?
Yep.
They are all merging together for me at this point.
Yeah. There's not a lot to separate.
And there's a lot of jokes about they changed the hop combinations. It's like, yeah, no one. Yeah. So we're using Citra and Mosaic and HBC whatever this time. And next time we're using Citra and Mosaic and Amarillo. And everyone could definitely, taste the difference. And it's hazy,
if
bro.
you can't taste the difference, I am very skeptical that anybody can taste the difference. That's just.
I mean, sometimes if it's like a single hopped IPA or there's like a dominant hop, there's some that have like such pronounced qualities. Like if you have a super galaxy hopped IPA, you get tons of like pineapple. And if you have like an overly hopped Mosaic IPA, if it's like overdone with Mosaic, you could definitely venture into the cat pee range. So,
well, that sounds delicious.
For any of our listeners that smoke weed as well, they have the same flavor compounds. That dankness that can be good in hops and in weed, if it goes a little too far, can venture into the smell of cat pee as well.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that next week because I still have some Tropic Chronic in my fridge.
Yeah.
The only problem is that smell won't come through the podcast. I had a friend come over and I was like, "No, you gotta smell this." I popped it open and had him smell it, and then I poured it out because I can't even drink it. Like it's so potent. Anyway. Back to your beer.
But yeah, Southern Grist, double dry hopped mixed greens, a hazy IPA. If you like hazy IPAs, you will definitely like this. It is just fine. It is good. It is well done. It's a style that everyone does now. I like them, but it's to the point where I bought this beer specifically to listen to on the podcast. Otherwise, I would rarely buy a hazy IPA from out of town because they're just, whatever I can get around here is the same that you could get from the best breweries in Nashville or the best breweries in New York or the best breweries and even in the Massachusetts ones where this came, where the style really got popularized. Like everyone's good at these now. I mean, there are still breweries that are bad at them, but
sure.
There's a lot of breweries that are good at them.
Yeah, it's not hard to be. It seems like it's not hard to be good at it. But yeah, if it's bad, then it's obviously no good. But those are pretty. Those are pretty tough to find.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Have my favorites.
For a while, it was the breweries. Like it took them a while to kind of unlock the key to. Having the suspended haze and getting the mouthfeel from the amount of the oats and the rolled oats and stuff you use. And once I unlocked that, because that was a big thing with these, you don't really put in much bittering hops, and then it's heavily dry hopped, heavily late aroma hops. So you're just getting a big sensory experience on the mouth feel and a big sensory experience on the nose, and it's almost a different category.
Pretty intense citrus flavors.
Yeah, citrus and papaya and pineapple. I don't know if pineapple counts as a citrus, but tropical and citrus flavors versus maybe some pine or more bitter citrus where you get the old ones like grapefruit and things like that. But so it's different, and it's probably oversaturated at this point, but you still get good. They're still good. And if you're ever in Nashville, I'd highly recommend checking out Southern Grist. They make a beer. I also have a Pilsner for them, which I may crack in a second here because I'm almost done with the IPA.
Yeah. Well, I've already moved on to the Pilsner, man. I got the Rogers Pilsner going on.
I like how you have adopted my Pilsner sidecar. I just have so much influence. It's a fabulous way to finish the night. I know. It's crisp, clean. There was a time when I would I would do my nightcap as a big dark beer. Then you just you're adding 500 calories, and plus you get so much more drunk and hungover the next day because you drink this big.
Let's drink the big one first, get all drunk, and then we'll just kind of add lightly on top of it.
Well, yeah, it was funny. Doing my day drinking when I was in North Carolina, one of the days was in Chapel Hill. There's a great beer bar called Beer Study, which is great. It's our college town, great, good stuff. Yeah. And I had, this big beer, and the same thing. I went to another one of the beer bars in Durham called Sam's Bottle Shop, and at both places, I started out with a big ass imperial barrel aged stout. And then I was like, well, I can't do that again because it's noon. So I got a whole day of drinking ahead of me. And so I got the big sweet thing out of the way. And then it was Dortmunder Lager or Pilsner or whatever after that. And which is, you used to build, I used to build. They start with the light and then go, but then you're my palate will figure it out. Just figure it out, palate. You could do it. You can recover, man. Yeah.
I am a firm believer that's the way to go because if you start light and build toward the heavier stuff, man, I don't know about anybody else, but by the end of the night, I am I feel so full and I just feel full. Oh yeah. Really, really full.
I can't tell you how
many. And I don't want to feel that way.
I can't tell how many beer shares I've been to where we do that. We start with the lighter stuff. We would, you start, that it often would be whatever the latest haze is you found. And then the sours. And then by the time you get the barrel aged stouts and the barley wines, your stomach is so goddamn full and people just want a little bit of it. And so then people are chugging what's left out of they're like, oh, we can't waste this. We got to finish it. And then so everyone's just drinking and just making them making themselves feel terrible.
And your stomach feels like it's about 80 inches around and you're just
if you start with the big beer, you can kind of level set. You set that expectation to your stomach. Look, here's all the calories. I don't need that many more. Yes. That way, when I start drinking the lighter stuff.
And then, that's the way. Your palate's wrecked, but whatever.
And also, you're not going to feel as bad if you dump a half a can of Rogers Pilsner versus a $25 bottle of barrel aged stout or something.
For sure.
You're not going to feel as bad there. So, big advocates of fucking over your palate, but also making your night better. So cheers to that.
I am 100% on board with big beer first, small beer at the end. So,
Jeff, sometimes I feel like I've kind of helped you speed along the beer nerd journey, a little faster than I went through.
For sure. Yeah, no doubt about that.
And I'm not taking all the credit, but I am taking a lot of the credit.
Yeah, no doubt about that, man. I am absolutely, Pilsners and lagers now, whenever I can find good ones, like they're harder to, so like we talk about this, right? Like I am as you mentioned on Twitter, I am the world's foremost Costco beer reviewer, which I love that. It's just like the places where I am most often, right? Like I have a busy life. I got 3 kids, like, things are kind of crazy. And, most often I'm at Costco, I'm at Winco. And, so I try to be kind of picky, when I go there, and a lot of what's at, my Costco in Puyallup sucks, and some of it's pretty good. And so, I try to grab the stuff that's
going to have many, craft lagers.
No. And that's the thing. So they're not occasionally. So I've gotten, I got a Black Raven lager, Oktoberfest lager that was pretty good. I'm trying to remember. There was another one that was pretty good. It was a Mexican lager, and I can't remember who brewed it, but it was pretty good too. But yeah, it's, Pilsners especially, you don't see Pilsners at all. And then it's almost all IPAs. So it's like, okay, fine, but when I go to, so I've got to go to get, Pilsners, good Pilsners and lagers, pretty much I got to go to Rainier Growlers. And
yeah, that's where I always
I don't stop by there as much as I probably should, but. Well,
it's always, that's, if I want to get a good set of Pilsners lagers, either go straight to the brewery or go to a craft shop. But yeah, I guess we can, cleanse our palate of that bad weekend of men's hoops, with an absolute perfect weekend for the women. 2 massive games, a fellow bubble team to start off on Thursday, and then a chance for a signature win that makes it almost like impossible for the tournament committee to keep you out if you can get it. And so they start out on Thursday, Arizona State. I mean, these are 2 of the most complete games they've played all season. And it's really not because Charlize Ledger-Walker was going off. Charlize was in massive foul trouble for most of the night against Arizona State. Only played 26 minutes. And I don't know if you can find a game when Charlize only played 26 minutes that they won last year. You probably can't. I don't know. I don't know if you can find it.
Neither one of us is going to go back and look, but she was. I'm positive that that's the case.
She was very, very good in those 26 minutes. 13 points, 5 assists, only 1 turnover, 3 rebounds, 13 points. Those 13 points on 6 of 11 shooting. So very efficient. But what we've seen this year is the other players have taken just massive steps forward. It's exactly what we hoped for out of some of these players. So Bella has become more consistent in finishing inside. She's become a lockdown rim protector.
Without committing a ton of fouls.
Without committing nearly as many fouls as she did last year. Her effort. I hate calling out effort for players.
Yes.
But honestly, and I'm sure Cammie would say this too, maybe not on...
She's alluded to it. She's alluded
to it. Bella's effort wasn't always consistent last year. This year, she's locked in. So even when she has a shitty start to a game, she usually comes back with a stretch where she is our best player for 5 minutes. And she has just become such a good defensive player that when she's not in the game, it is obvious. And, she came in this game 6 of 10, 12 points, 6 boards, 3 blocks. That's, what else do you need in 30 minutes? That's a great 30 minutes. And then you have, Ula's been struggling lately, but she carried us earlier with her 3-point shooting. Through some tough times when, Charlize wasn't shooting very well. And then you have Crystal Ledger-Walker, who has just become such a more efficient player. She hasn't been called upon to take 15 to 20 shots a game like she was last year. She only took 4 shots in this game, 2 of 4. She did have 7 turnovers, which That still is an issue at times. I mean, she just takes her chance, and yes. Johanna Teder also had 6 turnovers, but she has her shooting has become so much more consistent, and her finishing inside. So she was 7 of 12 in this game. Crystal was only 1 of 2. I was reading it like it was KenPom where they have the 2-pointers and 3-pointers, but so Charlize was only 4 of 7. So Johanna was 7 of 12, 4 of 7 from 3. Her threes have become so much more consistent. She would just go games without hitting one, and now she's canning, a couple every game, and she's just using her athleticism, and she's again a great defensive player. She's ticked up her on-ball defense this year, and WSU's defense has really been what's kept it going, because they, like the men, have seemingly impossible offensive stretches, but they didn't have that as bad against Arizona State, and they finished super strong and pulled away, which has become a hallmark of this team. And I don't know, did you Arizona State, did you get a chance to watch Arizona either one this weekend?
I did get to watch most of the game against Arizona.
Great.
Which was a hell of a game.
I should also mention Tara Wallach, by the way, who had a real nice game against Arizona State, and then also hit a massive shot.
Hit a huge 3
against Arizona.
Against Arizona. Yep.
So yeah, let's talk. So I got to watch maybe like most of the second half against Arizona. Or I'm sorry, no, I didn't get to watch Arizona at all because that's when I was at the wedding. So I've only seen the highlights. It was Arizona State that I watched most of the game. Arizona. So since you got to watch it, I'll let you kind of, it's usually me leading this. I'll let you talk about
that's okay. I would say probably the most startling thing about it is they pretty much controlled the game and more or less led from start to finish. Arizona is obviously real good. Adia Barnes has built a really, really good program there. I know they've got one of the top recruiting classes in the country coming in next year as well. Arizona seems to be throwing around those bags everywhere, man, between football and men's basketball and women's basketball. She's done a pretty amazing job down there. And yet, this team, these Cougs, they don't really back down from anybody. Really the only team that they seem to be sort of, seems to be impenetrable to them is Stanford, right? They definitely play hard against Stanford, but it's like, Stanford overwhelms them, but everybody else, they've gone toe to toe with every other program in the Pac-12 over the last 2 years, and they beat Arizona last year and they beat them again. And, they play with just a confidence and a swagger, defense. They were forcing turnovers. They were getting shots in transition. As you mentioned, they are just much less reliant on Charlize than they were a year ago. When she wasn't on, they were going to lose. And that was just it. That there was really nothing else to be said. They just, they relied on her and they really rode her as far as she could take them. This year, just so different, as you mentioned, Bella, as you mentioned, Crystal, Tadair, and she's become a much more diverse scorer. I think you kind of mentioned that, not only is she, shooting threes last year, she was kind of a 3-point specialist, if I remember right. This year she's kind of getting in from all over the floor. She and Charlize are going to make a pretty ridiculous combo next year, and also another year of Bella. I mean, that's what's crazy about all this is, you look and you go, man, the only person of, I don't want to say of consequence. That's not a very nice thing to say, but the only person who plays sort of heavy minutes that is leaving is Crystal, and she's big. She's important. She has definitely gotten better this year. It's a lot of high risk, high reward stuff, but she's hitting enough shots now to kind of make it worth it. It's kind of crazy, how good they're going to be. And, like I said, they controlled the game more or less from start to finish against Arizona. Arizona lost their best player partway through the game on exactly the kind of play that you and I have been begging for the NCAA to do away with, which is, block charge, do away with the charge, eliminate the incentive to have players jumping in front of other players trying to draw contact. That's what happened on this one. I believe it was Tadair who jumped in to try and draw a charge. She was late. It was a block. No question it was a block. And then the Arizona player, and her name is completely escaping me right now, but she fell super awkward. Yeah. She fell super awkwardly and dislocated her shoulder. You could see it popped out like on TV. I was like trying not to throw up. It was so gross. And it was entirely because, in basketball, we have incentivized these plays where, players are trying to make a collision, and that's what happened. And she fell weird and she, popped out her shoulder and she was done. And I mean, I don't know that Arizona would have come back to win anyway. Like I said, we were in control, the vast majority of the game anyway, but it was just such a bummer to see. You don't want to see that for a player, but we played great and super impressive game. Very complete game.
Probably their best. And it was probably their best offensive game of the season.
Yeah, and what was crazy about it wasn't like it took some kind of insane, like to compare it to the men. Like we're not talking like what we did to almost beat USC, right? Where we had to hit 50% of our threes to make it work. This was just, we played really well and
they did hit 9 of 16 from 3, but
they did, but they didn't shoot, 33s and hit half of them, exactly. Right? Yeah. Like they were efficient with the ones that they took, but it was, just a lot of, penetration, dish. Bella was great. And, it was a really fun game to watch. It's an exciting team. It's, it's kind of a bummer that they're not, getting more attention and getting more, eyeballs on them, but whatever. They're, I guess, other people's loss to not watch them.
Yeah. Less than 1,000 people, still a tick up from their attendance early in the season. There was definitely more students at that game than there have been, but, that was their senior night, so you're not going to see them again, unless they play in the WNIT, but
which they're not.
They're not. They have beaten every other bubble team in the Pac-12. Like they just, and recently too, and now they're sitting at crazy. They've clinched their first winning record in Pac-12 play since 91-92. And you know what their record in the conference was that year? 5-3.
No. Yeah.
I don't know why. It was only 5-3. But it was 5-3. So this has been a crazy successful conference season that they've really, it's a complete opposite of last year where they stacked up a bunch of wins to start the year and then totally faded down the stretch and barely hung on and got into the tournament. This year, they kind of didn't have any big results for a long time, and now they've just been racking up wins over teams that will impress, that will give them impressive wins, and really recovering from that, blitzing by Oregon, which is a big reason why their net is so low right now. They're 62.
Right.
Without that and without, the big loss to Stanford, they're probably let's be honest, they're probably going to get beat by 20 or 30 by Stanford and their net's going to dip again or whatever, So, I think that's why, Charlie Cream put them in his bracket for the first time in a while. And, so he put them straight past, they were first 4 out last week. And now he's got them, after those 2 wins, he's got them as a 10 seed. I mean, he had them as like a 12 seed last year, and they were actually a 9 seed by the tournament. But last year was interesting. They had a really good net, but their record wasn't good. This year they have a good record, but their net isn't good. So it's going to be interesting to see. You might have like a little bit of, minimal sample here about how a committee looks at a net versus, actually the wins that you're getting. Cause they're now tied for third. Is it tied for third or they're tied for second, I'm sorry, in the conference with Oregon. And because they have a better overall record, or they are listed as second on the Pac-12 official standings. So they're looking very good at securing a top 4 seed, which, I think they need Utah to lose one of their final games, or, which they have Oregon and Oregon State. So that's going to be 2 tough games for them. They need one of them to lose one of their final games, or, WSU needs to just win, you beat either Stanford or Cal, which Cal is very, very bad. So, and we beat the heck out of them earlier. So I feel good that they can get that win. Stanford, if they beat Stanford this weekend, that will be the greatest win in program history. Without a doubt.
Hands down, bar none. Nothing else would even come close.
Because they have never beaten Stanford in something like 60 tries.
And to beat them on the road would be even crazy.
But Stanford is also ridiculously good.
Yes. Also true.
Has not lost in conference play. But WSU is picked 6th to start the year. And they're sitting in second right now, going to the final weekend, tied for second. That's amazing. What they've done this year, they're getting all those close wins that the men's team would sure love to have. They may be sitting lower in net, but they have the wins, and that's why they're going to make the tournament, as long as, they don't totally face plant these last 3 games, going to the Pac-12 tournament, lose to a team or whatever. But it seems very likely, given what they've amassed. I don't know how you can keep them out, given that I
think it's already done.
They've beaten Utah, Colorado, Oregon State, UCLA, Arizona State, and USC. All the next teams and Arizona. So the only team they haven't beaten below them in the standings is Oregon, the one team I'm tied with. But they've just beaten every other team that could possibly be a bubble team. They've taken them out, and they've, in some cases, knocked them off the bubble, like UCLA and Arizona State. And so, if they aren't in there if the committee does not find that valuable, then I will be at a loss. But
if they hadn't beaten Arizona, I might be but one thing we saw last year is the way that the committee values those big wins. They want to see, can you beat, other teams that are in the tournament? And up until this point, we hadn't really. I was looking at their net breakdown.
Colorado is probably a tournament team at Oregon State, possibly, and so they beat.
I'm just thinking, when I look at I think we talked about this last week. Women's basketball doesn't use the quad system the same way the men do. But they do break them down into sort of 4 quadrants when they analyze the record. And so they look at, wins against, top 25 teams, wins against, so that's their quad 1. And it doesn't take any account for home or road, which I think is kind of silly, but whatever. And then their quad 2 is 26 through 50. And then quad 3 is 51 through 150 or something. And then quad 4 is 151 through 300 or whatever it is. And that was our first win against the top 25 team in the net. But when you look at 26 to 50, which is that second tier, we're undefeated. We haven't lost any games in that second set. Which to me just sort of screams you can look at the net and you can be I assume the women's net is
except
the same
Utah.
As the
we lost
net,
to
but
Utah.
It might not be.
Or I guess Utah is at 25 now, so they
so that's what it was, because I looked at it this morning
when we lost to them. But.
Yeah, so I looked at it this morning. The only losses we have are to teams in the top 25.
Yeah,
basically.
And then
that speaks well to this being a team that's a 25 to 50-ish team, which is an NCAA tournament team if there ever was one. And
because they've beaten 29 Gonzaga, 31 Colorado, 41 Arizona State, 50 Oregon State, 58 UCLA, and then they're sitting at 60. WCU's sitting at 62. But
yep.
They've beaten all, like, if you're sitting and looking at, especially two teams from the same conference, if you're trying to separate them, like, what are you going to look at,
And I also think that finishing top 4 in the conference is, in the Pac-12, knowing how good the Pac-12 is, you finish top 4 in that conference, I think that says something too. Even though it's not supposed to mean anything, I think it does. So,
well, and heck, if you beat Cal, Oregon could very well. They have 2 tough games at Colorado, at Utah. They could lose. You beat Cal. You could be third. You could even stay in second because Arizona's got USC and UCLA, who they should beat, but they both of them have the athletic talent to match up with almost anybody. So it'll be interesting. It's an exciting final weekend for them. They've never finished this high in the conference, really.
No, never. Not even close.
But it's so we'll see. Beat Cal and you're at least in 4th, and you don't have to play that first day in Las Vegas, and
that's
which
really
they've never accomplished either. So. Which this is the first year, I think, of buys for how were they doing it before? Or they've only used the buys for a few years, but yeah, so very exciting weekend. What they've done down the stretch, just again, a totally opposite of what happened last year. Last year was just like frustrating loss after frustrating loss after frustrating loss. And it seemed like they were torpedoing a good season. And I'll say, I've said it again a million times last year, they lost Cheryl Molina down the stretch. So they basically were down to like 5 core players. But getting Wallach this year as just like a very reliable, kind of productive bench player, plays really good defense, occasionally goes off offensively. It doesn't shoot a great percentage, but just her size causes issues, has been huge. And that's helped them sustain in times when Charlize is in foul trouble or Bella's in foul trouble or something like that. So, they're not deep, but they're ever so slightly deeper than they were last year at this time. And it's showing, they're finishing very strong. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what they have to do to finish this week out and finish this season out. Because obviously, they have a chance to be a 20-win team going into the tournament.
Yeah.
Like, how crazy would that be?
That's insane.
Yeah,
that would be super crazy.
Yeah,
never happened before. Never even come close to happening before.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is all we have for you today. If you want to follow us on the Twitters, I'm at the Craig Powers. Jeff is at Pod versus Everyone. If you want to email us, podcastversuseveryone@gmail.com. Our email inbox has been tumbleweeds lately,
empty.
So give us an email. If you already subscribe, then make sure to rate us 5 stars. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Rate us 5 stars, leave a comment. If you've done all that, tell some of your Coug friends who might not listen to it.
Yeah. Tell them we're awesome. Yeah. You can lie to them. It's okay.
You can lie. It's fine. They'll find out on their own eventually. But
yeah.
We'll get the penny before. We'll be laughing all the way to the piggy bank.
To the piggy bank.
Yep. All right, Jeff. With all that's left to say is go Cougs.
Go Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
And get vaccinated.
Get it.